Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to David's Den. I'm David. I make videos about Stephen King, his novels, his short stories, and any adaptations that were made for film or television. We're watching Chapelwaite, which happens to be an adaptation or based on the short story Jerusalem's Lot by Stephen King, which is a prequel to the novel Salem's Lot. So today, we're doing the top 10 insert appropriate expletive moments of Chapelwaite, episode 6, The Offer. 1. Grandfather is angry. So we start the episode right off with getting some answers that raise more questions, which is always a good thing when a story is trying to keep you in suspense. We finally get to see a living Marcella on screen, and she's hiding, she's praying. Stephen and Philip are looking for her. Stephen, her father, says, "Grandfather is angry. Where did you hide the book?" And then Marcella makes a dash for the front door. Of course, she gets stopped by Philip, and I was a little disappointed. There's a little bit of a fake-ish fight, and I get it. They were going for the angles, and Philip was giving us those long hold, I'm old and skinny, and look at how scary my face is kind of things. But I thought it felt a little melodramatic. And we're talking about a Gothic story here, so there's a little element of the melodramatic that's expected. But I thought this just kind of went a little above. It took me out for a second, and I don't know how else to explain it. I don't think it was necessarily bad. It was just a half second that I went, oh, okay, we're moving on. But yeah, just a personal reaction to that moment. But what we're actually seeing is the difference in Stephen and Philip Boone, his father. Philip is the one that is whole arm slapping his granddaughter, kicking her in the stomach, and then she tries to get away. She falls down the stairs. The scissors that she was holding onto for protection go into her neck, which is what we heard from Mrs. Cloris from before. We just didn't know how those scissors got there. If you remember, I said, I think it was in the first episode reaction, I have a lot of questions about how those scissors got into her neck, and now we know. And now here comes Stephen crying, actually over his now dead daughter, not over the fact that they don't know where the book that she hid is, De Vermis Mysterious. And here comes Philip at the top of the stairs, just looking down in that cold, puritanical, idealist face that he has on, and says, "Save your tears. You can beg Jacob for forgiveness." So this scene really had me thinking about two things. One, progress versus tradition, that theme that we've been talking about since the very first episode. Father represents tradition, son represents moving forward and empathy and just progress in terms of emotional growth. But then you have this other element of Philip being such a stone cold motherfucker. He's a cold-hearted snake. He been telling lies. That's not how the song goes. He's a cold-hearted snake. Look into his eyes. He's been telling lies. He's a lover boy at play. He don't play by rules. Anyway. He's cold as ice. It got me thinking about the madness element that has run down the line in this family from the book calling to them. Since Philip was an older man, was he further progressed in the madness before he was turned into a vampire than Stephen was? Is that part of where this violence and coldness comes from? Or is that just the way he always was? Either way, it's setting up a great dichotomy between father and son, even though they seem to be working together moving forward. 2. I know who I fought. So now we're in jail again. Constable Dennis has his wife locked up for her own safety after he caught her feeding on Philip's wrist last night. And he has Dr. Guilford there, who has inspected Mary in the past, and he confirmed that those bites on the left side, that those bites were definitely bites and not made by a human and in a strategic place for bloodletting. So that was key about vampires. That was part of our clue in the last episode. But now he's not so sure. I think he says, I found the same marks, and he lists a few other people in town, names that we haven't heard yet. And Constable Dennison says, you said those were bites. I said those could be bites. So now we have a doctor who is looking at evidence and saying, I can't explain this. So what you're saying, Constable, might be right. That you know who you fought last night, that you saw a vampire. You saw the undead. But I also know that those things don't exist because I'm a man of medicine and science. So this is what we're getting from Dr. Guilford. They're also with Reverend Burroughs. The constable is saying, please, we have to go talk to Mrs. Cloris. You need to believe us. This is what's happening in town. There are the undead, and please stay with my wife. And I love Martin Burroughs' line. He says, wait, but Faith was telling me about people in Jerusalem's lot who drank blood. So now he is maybe starting to believe as well. What I really love here is this is basically a scene from Salem's Lot, the novel. They skipped it in the 1979 miniseries. I want to say to an extent it was in the '04 miniseries. I haven't seen it in so long. Also written by Peter Filardi, by the way. But there's this fantastic scene where Ben, who's our protagonist, and we'll go ahead and say he is the constable character, the one who has been seeing things happening to him and around him and starts to get suspicious and starts to first entertain these ideas that maybe this could be something evil. And then we have Dr. Guilford, who is basically Dr. Cody with the exact same kind of mentality about what he's hearing. And finally, we get Martin Burroughs, who we have already talked about being a stand-in for Father Callahan, who lost his faith in Salem's Lot and has to find it again. In this instance, Martin Burroughs has faith, but he literally just lost his girlfriend, whose name is Faith. Okay, by the end of the episode, she is on her way to a train station. That's another oh shit moment, and we're gonna get there soon enough. Meanwhile, in bed, in the jail cell, is Mary, who has been attacked by these vampires and is not well. This is like Matt Burke, the teacher who invited Mike Ryerson in. But he wasn't bit by the vampires. After Mike Ryerson flew through that window the way that Stephen did, Matt, from the fright of it all, has a heart attack and ends up in the hospital. And he is the link between all of these people that are now congregating at the foot of his bed, deciding what they're going to do and how to plan fighting vampires, or even discovering whether their suspicions about vampires being in town are true. And now here we go, in just the same fashion, Constable Dennison and Dr. Guilford take off to go talk to Mrs. Cloris because she used to work for them and they want to know what the she knows. 3. Gabrielle Rose. Okay, just the fact that Gabrielle Rose as Mrs. Cloris is back on screen gets its own oh shit moment. She is fantastic. Again, it's like 2-3 minutes of a scene, and all she does is really kind of recap and confirm for us what we already have suspected. That Stephen and Philip have been spending time in Jerusalem's Lot, that she did know that Philip and Stephen were something evil, that Philip threatened her if she were to tell anyone. There are 2 specific moments. Gabrielle Rose, I love watching you perform. I'm telling my story and suddenly you realize that you probably should have warned someone, and you, in the middle of a thought, you turn to the constable. I was going to come tell you. I love that moment. But then the very end, he accuses you. Constable Dennison gives you that fantastic line. You knew all of this and you still let that man and those children move into that house. And after he leaves, because she can't defend herself and she knows it, is just the silent, and I am damned for it. I love you, Gabrielle Rose. I need to go find out everything else you've done and watch it now. That might be my next project. 4. Miroslav Barzak. I'm very sorry if I mispronounced that name. I tried to look up how to pronounce it. I couldn't figure it out. I think that's it. Oh my God, I feel so bad if I said that incorrectly. He's a cinematographer that is listed for this episode. The cinematography, I've touched on it before, is beautiful through this entire series. There's these really stark, menacing angles from below. We get these straight-on shots when people are being vulnerable. The camera work really helps to tell the story, but there's this really beautiful moment in the jail cell after Minister Burroughs has been left alone with Marion, and he says, "Would you like to pray?" And she says, "Yes." And they get on their knees, and we get this beautiful shot through the prison bars of Mary saying, "He talks to me." Who does, Mary? God. And the camera's moving, and during the pauses, we're literally clipping in her words in between, visually, the vertical bars of her jail cell.
Who does?
God.
What does he say?
He offers me his blood, so I will live forever.
Oh my God, it helps to establish visually the nuance and the layers. He offers me his blood to drink so I can live forever. And we're talking about communion. But now we know Jacob comes from a religion with this worm that is older than the Christian religion and the Christian God even. So we're mirroring communion in the 2 religions, but old world tradition versus new progress. It's everywhere, guys. And that cinematography, such a gorgeous shot. 5. I am so sorry. Well, they put Loa in her prettiest dress and they wrap her up, and Charles gets in a rowboat and he takes her out to sea, as he knows to do from being a captain on a whaling ship. And I'm pretty certain he doesn't want her buried in the ground anywhere near Chapelwaite, and they're unwanted at the church. So he puts her to sea, which I think is appropriate for Loa, the character, as well. And we understand the depth of failure as a father that Charles feels with Adrian Brody's performance in just those 3 words: I'm so sorry. It deserves its own moment. 6. There are those who live. So after Charles goes out to sea, Rebecca kind of runs away from the family and self-reflects, and we have these gorgeous, almost like painting shots of her going through the fields back to the house, and she says, there are those who live and those who feed off that living. The latter are cowards. They find comfort and safety living in the background, the shadows. Am I so different from these vampires? First off, let's take a minute and let's stop and talk about cycles of horror in popular entertainment. You may have noticed that we get, a decade of zombie, right, movies, and then we get monster movies in literature and TV shows, and then we get vampires again, and then we get aliens, and then right? Good horror usually has some sort of commentary on relevant current themes. Vampires usually are referring to literally blood being sucked out of you. So think about corporate greed using the peons, the people that are underneath them in this corporate structure, especially what we see here in America. There's even a line about this, I think it's episode 2, when Charles and Rebecca are getting to know each other, and he says that whaling is especially lucrative for those at the top, not so good for those underneath, and Rebecca comes back with, and especially not for the whale. So we've seen this kind of social structure status, which also can play into old world and tradition and progress. If you want to look at Old Minister Sam Gallup versus Minister Burroughs, right? And if you're watching American Horror Story this season, they're actually using a kind of vampire theme, but they're talking about the manipulation of Hollywood and getting stuck in the game and what the grind and what you have to do to succeed as an entertainer. That your life is not yours anymore, that you can only take from other people. So we're setting up this kind of idea. I get the feeling that it's a social commentary in Chapelwaite. I just do. But regardless, there is some sort of commentary happening here. I hope that it gets a little bit more solidified in its tone and in our mind about what the specific point is to contemporary society beyond progress and tradition. By the end, we still have 3. Oh my God, there's only 3 more episodes, guys. 4. Number 7. Okay, 4 more. 4 more episodes. I did my math wrong. 7 came out last night, but I have not watched it yet. Ooh, I need to watch that. That's happening after this. But it also makes perfect sense that we're getting this from Rebecca, who is the writer's mouthpiece, the Stephen King mouthpiece, as we talked about numerous times in the previous episode reactions. We get the writer commenting on the situation for us. Great use of the technique, I think. The other thing that I really loved about this, because then she goes home, she has to kind of sit and reflect and kind of have a come to Jesus moment with herself about what she's done writing this story about them. And now Loa is dead and she can't apologize to her. And it brings to mind the episode with them holding the little seance and all the kids getting scared and her saying, I was well-intentioned, just misguided. And I said, then I hope that that trait comes back. And we kind of lost it. She got a little bit more responsible as she was watching the kids. Really, I think the character got a little bit more careful. And now here it is coming out, those impulses that we saw 6 episodes before, catching up with her. Great setup. But like I said, she has this kind of come to Jesus moment with herself. She goes to see the kids and she says, I'm sorry. In this heartfelt apology, very vulnerable, I lost confidence in myself. So I took your story. That was wrong. And I love you both. And she just leaves it at that, which I think is right. Then Charles calls her in and says, hey, the kids told me what you did. I let you into my home. I talked to you in confidence, remember? He had that moment where he was thinking about checking himself into the asylum, into Frigate Island Hospital, and he told her the history of his family and the madness, and that scene ended with him saying, but please don't tell anyone. Only you and my dead wife know this. I've never spoken about this to anyone. And now she has written it down in a story. Talk about the sense of betrayal. And while I commented in the last episode reaction that I was hoping the romance that was kind of developing between them wasn't going to get in the way of the plot, I think that really what happened, because now I don't see any chance for romance after this betrayal, I really think that setting it up slowly in little, like maybe a bit here, 2 bits in the next episode, right, for like 3 episodes, built their relationship to a point that this betrayal felt that much worse. And then, of course, Charles says, but let's be practical. It's almost nighttime. Philip and Stephen are coming. Leaving Lila's body where I'd find it was a message. They want to say something to me. I think they're coming tonight. So don't go. I'll probably need you to help protect the children, because everything he thinks about is the children. Also, it's just not safe to be out in the dark while vampires are around, kind of. But then as she leaves, he says one of my favorite lines to date in all of Chapelwaite. Has this tragedy played out to your satisfaction? Oh, that probably hurt. 7. Something wicked has taken over. Now we're back to the Faith, Alice, Minister Burroughs subplot. Faith goes into the church where she meets Minister Burroughs. She says, do you have the tickets? He hands her 1. I can't leave. Something wicked has come to Preacher's Corners, and you know this. You tried to tell me about it, and I wouldn't listen to you. You'd leave me for Alice, me and our baby? You'd leave us for that bitch? No, I love you. I will try to meet you out west when I can, when all of this is over, but I can't abandon my congregation in their time of need. Philip Boone is dangerous. He is an undead vampire creature, and he's coming for the town. Faith basically just says, you know, Philip Boone, Jacob's coming. And when Jacob comes, he's going to bring the worm with him. Everyone in Preacher's Corners is going to die. And then she leaves. They share a nice, quiet kiss. And we realize, having heard that he is not leaving her because of Alice, we see Alice in the choir loft, having heard the entire conversation. Although, in a great bit of dramatic irony, we knew that the whole time, because if you didn't blink or turn away, you see Alice come out of a door in town and she sees Faith going into the church and follows her. So if you're paying attention, you should know the whole time that she's listening, and it just adds so much more weight to that scene. Then Minister Burroughs goes home to find Alice with her father, the puritanical, old world tradition minister, saying, you lied before God and now we're all being punished for it. The hypocrisy, right? Because Martin Burroughs comes back with, God doesn't work that way. And then here comes the old minister saying, how dare you presume to know what God thinks? Isn't that what he was just doing? Frankly, I love that they're showing the hypocrisy and the illogicality. Is that even a word? I like it. I'm using it. I think it is. This illogicality of the old world thinking. So now Minister Burroughs is basically cast out of his church. He ends up taking a room at the boarding house for his sin of adultery, which is actually very similar to Father Callahan. I mean, he doesn't go get a separate room or anything. He's living in the rectory, but because he is an alcoholic and has lost his faith, we are both getting these ministers who are somewhat despondent about their faith and their religion. And they are the religious leaders and the moral compass. I mean, Burroughs himself is about to take the town into war. Well, I'm saying that not knowing. He's at least pairing up with Dennison and Dr. Guilford, and I'm going to guess Charles eventually. Oh my God, you guys, along with Rebecca and Abel, it's literally the pairing that we saw on All Hallows Eve when the town got separated with the constable right there in the middle, and now he's inched over to Charles' side. Yeah! I love when things come back around like that. Visual storytelling, amazing. 8. The Whippoorwills are back. So we talked a lot about Whippoorwills being an omen of bad luck or a symbol of death. Back in the first episode, we even get a couple of lines about Whippoorwills. One crashes into the window of the house. And they've been there through every episode since. We've been hearing them, even if it was just for a little bit. And now we get these loud, draw our attention to it Whippoorwills as the carriage carrying Faith and her baby to the train station to leave and head to California come across somebody. The wheel has fallen off of his cart. He's trying to fix it. And Faith is saying, please go around, go around. She knows it is dusk. the bad things are coming out, and Faith knows what those bad things are, and she needs to get going. And the guy's like, no, I'm gonna be a good Samaritan. Let me walk over there. Do you need any help, sir? Bam! Here comes Apple. And I'm using that term. Thank you, Jennifer Enns. Jennifer Enns plays Honor, and on Instagram, I saw her post something to Genevieve de Graves, who plays the Apple Girl, and she said, love you, Apple. And I was like, oh my God, I thought that sinister, sexy Apple Girl was good, but no, I asked her if I could steal it, and now, from now on, she's Apple. Anyway, here comes Apple, and she's like, hey, Faith, give me your baby. Faith's like, no, it's my baby, but Faith, give me your baby. Here's my baby. Please don't do anything to hurt it. You want this thing to live? Please do whatever you want to me. Just don't hurt my baby. You know how little Jacob cares for his children. Oh, what does that mean? What children? Are we talking about his vampire disciples, the vampires he's created? Does he just not like children in general? Is this, to borrow an idea from American Horror Story, is baby blood just better? Does he just want it? Do we know now that Jacob's going to kill that baby and drink its blood forever and ever and ever? Or maybe not kill it, because then he couldn't drink it forever. But keep bringing it to the brink of death and back forever and ever and ever? I don't know. What the fuck does mean by how Jacob likes his children? And then they kill Faith. But we kind of guessed that was going to happen a couple episodes ago at some point anyway. Although I really did think she was getting out, right? She left during daylight, so I didn't even think that this was going to happen. So although it's not unexpected, it still came as a surprise. 9. George. We're going to backtrack in this episode now for a bit because there are some fantastic teasers peppered throughout that set up this moment. First, we're going to go all the way back to Mrs. Cloris, where she's talking to the constable, and she says, if Philip drank off of your wife, she will get paler and paler and more confused until he bleeds her dry and she's dead. If she fed on him, then she is no longer your wife. What a statement of foreboding, right? Oh! Then when Minister Burroughs is left with Mary in the jail cell, and she says, can I have some water? My first thought was, oh shit. Oh shit. She's coaxing him over there so she can bite him. He tries to get the water and he puts it down. She says, can you bring it to me? One more step closer to, I'm sure that this is what's going to happen. And he says, I don't have a key. Did you really not have a key, Minister Burroughs? Or were you just afraid? Either way, I respect the decision. Like, no fault. And then they get down to pray, and she has a problem getting down to her knees, and she gets a little, and whether or not that's pain because she is ill and weak and having trouble getting to her knees, or whether it's because she's with a priest and about to pray while she's being turned into a vampire, but she's not a vampire yet. And then later in the same scene, at the same moment with that beautiful camera shot, she says, God offers me his blood, so if I drink it, I will live forever. Which I'm sure to her, a woman who has just asked, I've been a good servant to God, haven't I, minister? If she really believes this is God, then she will be living forever in heaven. She doesn't have a reason not to believe this person who's coming to her and saying those things, if she really thinks she's on death's door. Finally, here comes Constable Dennis, caring for her, and she says, I'm not afraid. When the time comes, I'll be ready. And he says, just close your eyes and rest, Mary. I won't let you be like them. And he smothers her with the pillow, which was probably the biggest mistake he could have made, because until she actually died, she wasn't turning into a vampire. At least that's what it seems like. But then again, he couldn't know that. Oh my God. Good intentions, right? So now he has set Mary out in the bed, treated her with all the respect that his recently deceased wife deserves, especially after he's the one that just killed her. He sits down, he takes a long swig of his liquor, he sets up his gun to commit suicide. And then we see, barely out of focus behind him, Mary just sitting up, saying, George? And then what? And then what? What the and then what happens? This isn't even the cliffhanger of the episode, but it's a cliffhanger into next episode. I want to know what's happening with the denizens. They're fascinating. 10. Who's there? This is another moment that we've been getting these fantastic teases for this entire episode. When we first see Charles at the beginning of the episode with Loa, he notices that there are 2 sets of marks on her neck, which means that both Philip and Stephen fed off of her. And we know that that's the first step in someone becoming a vampire. And we talked in previous episodes about Steven getting close to Loa, and was that the end game? So is Loa a vampire when we see these? We're not sure, right? Charles even tells Rebecca about the marks and says they drank her blood. And then he f***ing buries her at sea. Okay, so at this point, we're sure Loa is dead. And if she isn't, she's stuck at the bottom of the ocean. That's just how it is. Okay, good. We're done with Loa. So now Charles has locked himself in a room with his 2 remaining children and with Rebecca so they can all be in one place and safe. And they're waiting for Philip and Stephen to show up to say whatever they have to say. And we hear these footsteps and, Tane says, "They're here." And they stop at the foot of the door and there's no sound. So Charles says, "Who's there?" And we hear, "Father, I'm cold." Holy shit. Loa has swum back in from the ocean. And when we saw Charles in that boat, he was far enough out that we didn't see any land. What the hell? And she's wet and she has, things dripping from her hair. She didn't even lose them while she was walking from the ocean, I guess. But no, it's a fantastic look for this. I don't fault it. I'm not mad about it at all. But we see this after Charles opens the door. Of course, Tane is protesting. Please don't let her in. He opens the door because he's so overwhelmed with grief. Write those 3 words, "I'm so sorry." Everything he's been doing is to protect his children, and he lost one of them. So he opens the door. We get Loa suddenly changing from this frail voice that we can't see her look and saying, "Dad, it's cold. Why won't anyone let me in? Honor? Tane?" And then suddenly, just like Philip, we got this stone cold motherfucker.
He's cold as ice.
"Father, come with me." And he goes. Of course, he leaves Rebecca, makes sure she has the gun so she can guard the 2 children. But that also was left unresolved. I almost feel like this should have been a 2-hour episode because I want these answers now. Oh my God, I get to watch it out right after I'm done recording this. Yay! But I also watched this like 4 days ago and I've been working on the outline and getting things. I've been editing the other video and you don't care about any of this. You just want what I have to say, right? Okay, let's get back to it. So Charles goes out to the barn. He finds Loa up in the loft and she says, "Look, Father, no leg brace. I can walk now. Stephen was right. I'm with my new family now. You can't tell me to get down. Don't tell me what to do anymore. These are my family." And here comes Philip and Stephen. And Philip says, "Did you make dealings with Jacob?" "I've made dealings with no one. We've been watching you and we know you hear the call of De Vermis Mysteris. You need to bring us the book." And then they make the titular offer. "Bring us the book, listen to its call, and we will cure you of the madness. In fact, our entire line will be cured of the madness." Stephen even says the Boone family will finally be at peace. "Why would I do anything for you? You just killed my daughter and made her pure evil, trapped me into all of this through lies, because Jacob will only kill you when he's done with you." Remember, Jacob said that he could cure him of his madness and stop it in the line. I guess being dead would be a cure, but we also don't know if we can believe Philip and Stephen. Philip and Stephen's offer is that we will make you live forever. And we know that once they're turned into vampires, they don't hear the call of the book anymore. So the madness that they've been suffering from is gone. And they say we can be one big family, living forever. And Charles tries to scramble up to the loft. Of course, all 3 of them are just gone. They've disappeared into thin air somehow. He turns back toward the barn. Worms everywhere. The book is calling. Right? It's all about that book. About that book. It's not madness. All about that book. About that book. It's not madness. I should probably edit that, but knowing me, I won't. So have me embarrassing myself for you to enjoy.
He's cold as ice.
All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Top 10 Oh moments in Chapelwaite, episode 6, The Offer. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss the next few episodes. And I also have a lot more Stephen King stuff coming up. I've been doing so many of these episode breakdowns that I've let other things fall behind that I meant to have out like a month ago. So we have the fun facts coming up for The Shining. I already have a lot of the Night Shift stuff recorded, so we're going to start examining those short stories, the first of which is Jerusalem's Lot that Chapelwaite is based on. And after that, I think the first one is Graveyard Shift, so that'll be the next movie that we get to. Hit subscribe so you don't miss any of that. Share this video with your friends if you have any of your friends that are watching Chapelwaite and you think they are Stephen King fans and would like to know this more behind the scenes in-depth analysis about how the stories line up. It's a little thing from you guys. I really appreciate it. It helps me grow. I'm a very new channel and the algorithm is not kind to those of us that are new with niche content. So please hit that like and subscribe button and I will see you guys next time.